perennial philosophy is. Perennial philosophy and how all the great religions of the world ultimately propagate what all the successfully called perennial philosophy. And it's full of quotations and excellent authors of the wonderful writer. So these sort of books, I think, should help. And we must try and get these books into our educational curricula. There have been many committees in India since independence. The P.S. Kothari Committee, the Radhakrishnan Committee, the Sri Prakash Committee, all of them have talked about teaching ethical values. Whether you call them interfaith, whether you call them value orientation. Some value addition, some value orientation to our educational structure is essential. If our education becomes totally devoid of any instruction, I agree that you can't really force children to adopt a model costume. But let them at least hear about it. There used to be, in the old days, you remember, there used to be a period for, what was it called? Moral science. And something like that. वो periods is खत्म हो गए. So there is only academia now. There is no leavening of any spiritual or higher values. So I think the first major point is the introduction of interfaith values into our education system. The second topic that we discussed was culture. Now culture cuts across religious music, for example, mentioned. Whether it is classical music, whether it is Sufi music, whether it is rock music. I am a rock addict, I don't know whether you know that or not. I listen to 1 hour of rock music every day. I've been following the rock movement from Bill Haley and the Comets. Started it long before it especially. Down to Billy Joel and Dire Straits and Whitney Houston and Boyzone and all. So music is a universal language. And it doesn't need any intellectual, it can come, it can cut across intellectual barriers.
आज एक डांस टीचर आई थी
Whether it is Abida singing a great song, or whether it is great bhajans which was sung by a lot of Indians. Dance again. Dance again is interfaith in the sense that a Bharatanatyam performance or the Swan Lake in Moscow. They uplift you, they give you a new perspective on life and on consciousness, which is part of the interfaith movement. So, in my capacity as president of the ICCR, I have given special attention to SARC. Not in Kashmir, I agree. We have had actually for the first time bands from the 8 SARC boy bands, from the 8 rock bands, from the 8 SARC countries. All of them performed in Central Park in Delhi. And tens of thousands of children enjoyed that. We have SARC artist camps. Maybe we could consider sending an artist camp here next year. And then they would then say, what we do is we get the SARC artists and we even the son, would you like to move on to this side? Those people are all in great distress. Why don't you come over here? There are some empty chairs. You know what we do, Vijay? We invite 2 artists from each SARC country. And we send them off for 15 days to some beautiful place. And then they paint there. And then they go back and they leave 1 or 2 paintings each with ICCR. So we have sent them first year, we sent them to Thiruvananthapuram. This year we sent them to Jaisalmer. This year we sent them to Srinagar. So maybe next year I will send them here to Kashmir. And that would be a good opportunity, Vijay, for you to look after them and for them to interact with local Kashmiri artists. That is one of the ways you could do that. Literature, Mushaira, as was mentioned by Zaina, Kavi Samel, poetry readings. The whole, just reciting poetry, going out of passion, except at a Mushaira which is held once every 2 months. You must have much more. All our educational institutions should have Mushairas all the time. आपने जो भी हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश में दम निकले, बहुत निकले मेरे अरमान लेके फिर भी दम निकले, निकलना खुल्द से आदम का सुनते आए थे लेकिन बड़े बेआरज़ू होकर तेरे जैसे हम निकले। मोहब्बत में नहीं है फर्क जीने और मरने का, उसी को देख के जीते हैं जिस काबिल पे दम निकले, खुदा के वास्ते काबिल से पर्दा ना हटा जालिम, कि ऐसा न हो बहुत ही बुरी काबिल और कहाँ पे खाने का दरवाजा खाने और कहाँ वारिस को इतना जानते हैं कि कल वो आता था कि हमें मिले। तो इस कदर भी अगर you have some culture of recitation. I mean, I can recite for hours and hours. That's my particular hobby. But that should be people आजकल झिझकते हैं। नहीं ये अभी आज नहीं है, नहीं मेरा गला खराब हो गया है, नहीं है। We should be encouraged. Young people should be encouraged, particularly to send films. You know that Gandhi film, Atmana's film, did more to recreate Gandhi for the whole new generation, not only around the world but in India, than any other single. Before that, Gandhi was becoming forgotten. That one film made by a Britisher was able to transform people's views about God. Now, if films like that can be made on interfaith themes, whether they are documentaries or whether they are feature films, that should make a great difference. And one thing I would suggest, interfaith prayer. If you have an interfaith prayer, and you have Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, Baha'is and Jains and all praying together, you suddenly realize that they couldn't be praying to different divinities. There couldn't be a separate God for the Jains and a separate one for the Sikhs and a separate one for the Baha'is. It's not possible. If there is a divinity at all, it must be the same that manifests itself in 100 different ways. The Rig Veda says, Ekam Sat Vipraha Bhavda Vadanti. The truth is one, the wise call it by many names. There can be 100 different manifestations of the divine, but if you pray together, that is a very powerful, I have noticed in all these great meetings, that interfaith prayers are very important.